Hello everyone, and welcome to my new Power Patron deck profile combo, whatever you want to see, on utilizing the new Odd Eyes support with the new Odd Eyes Override Dragon, the new Link 3. This card, I've heard a lot of people talking about it and saying it's not very good, and I think they are wrong. This card isn't good in every version of the deck, but for specifically the Odd Eyes build of this deck, a version I have not liked in the past, I think this card makes that build significantly better. I think it makes that build arguably the best version of the deck, legitimately. So let's go ahead and read this new card. It takes 2 or more monsters, including a Pendulum monster. It allows you to target another card you control, destroy it, and if you do, draw a card. During your turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can quick effect discard a card, negate that effect, and then if you destroyed a Pendulum monster card by this card's first effect, during your main phase, you get to conduct a second Pendulum summon of Performapal, Magician, or Odd Eyes monsters. That doesn't matter, for us at least, not until we get the new overframe, which I will talk about briefly, but I want to talk about this card, how it currently stands. I will definitely be making another video about the overframes and all that, and just in general what the deck's going to look like after Magnificent Monsters. But honestly, I don't know if you play them now that this card's out. This card makes it to where you do not need to play the Absolute Dragon lines anymore. You don't need to play the Astrograph Sorcerer. You can just make it with pure Power Patron without any bricks involved. Because this is a generic Odd Eyes extra deck monster. I'm gonna be honest, this card could have been a vanilla and it would be arguably playable because it lets you get to Vortex without committing anything to your main deck, which is really good. Link 3 is not ideal because you already have Exceed, which you'd like to make as a Link 3 in that slot, but I do have lines to make it work. So I am going to talk about what it matters for the deck list a little bit. This is a basic change around from the list I normally play, which is the Zena Fallen and the Virtuous list. Obviously, you can see there is no Zena in this list, and I've cut a few different things. I've cut the Fallen and the Virtuous package and the Zena, because originally there were 4 different extra deck slots here. There was Zena, the 2 cards for Fallen and the Virtuous, and a Baguska. I cut the Baguska because it wasn't coming up that much in my recent testing and gameplay. I cut the Zena because you don't need it unless you're doing the Fallen and the Virtuous stuff, and I'm cutting the Fallen and the Virtuous stuff to make room for the Odd Eyes stuff. So we obviously added the Vortex, the Override Dragon. I added Dahark because this card's really good into a lot of the decks right now. Specifically, being able to bring back Zolin against Cool Tune is crazy strong. And if this card gets destroyed, it gets to search your entire deck for any of your monsters, which is awesome. And then I went ahead and threw in the second non-finito so that post-side we can go into the Awakening line, which is really good. The other thing that I want to talk about is I am playing the main deck copy of Archmage Finmel. That is because in the combos we're going to be doing, we're going to be using non-finito to quick fuse into the Vortex Dragon on our opponent's turn. And to do that, we have to use a Pendulum monster. And if we're going to use a Pendulum monster, you might as well use Nervado. And if you use Nervado, you get to summon Finmel on your opponent's turn. So we get the extra interruption, which I do like quite a bit. And I think Finmel's a totally fine card to be main decking. It's not a brick. It can be a starter if you open any spell trap plus it. And summoning it and drawing a card, going first or going second, can be very, very good. The other thing I want to talk about is the going first line that this makes really good post-side, and that is the Guiding Ariadne Solemn Brigade combo. So basically, there is a combo you can do previously where you would go search Guiding Ariadne, search Shade. You would have to get to both, which was my big issue with it because you had to find both cards. And then you could do your combos, right? And then you would get Shade back to your hand, summon the Shade, pop the Guiding Ariadne, and when Guiding Ariadne is destroyed, you get to reveal 3 counter traps from your deck, and your opponent chooses 1 for you to add to your hand, and you shuffle the rest back in the deck. So you would play the 1 Judgment, and then 3 other Solemn traps. I'm playing Accusation, but you could play whatever. Card expensive, I understand. And then you could basically just end on a Solemn, like basically search your deck for a Solemn trap, which is unbelievably strong. However, you had to get to Shade in order to consistently do that. Now, because of the pop effect of Override, you get to do it for free without getting to Shade, which is unbelievable. The combo I'm going to be showing off gets you to a low scale for free off of Beyond the Pendulum, and you could just get Guiding Ariadne. Instead, I'm getting Ginoldo, but you could just search Guiding Ariadne and use that instead, right? Which is very, very good. So just something to keep in mind that you could be doing. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the combo. All right, so this combo is going to have Terminus and any other card. I know it is a spell trap in this hand, but it could be literally any card. It doesn't matter. We're going to go ahead and use Terminus, send the Nervado, add the Vidolium, standard fare. We're going to use the Vidolium to summon back our Nervado, and then we're going to trigger the Vidolium to search out our field spell. Now, here is where people are going to disagree with me. I'm going to use Nervado to tag itself out for the Nerva. Now, you might be yelling at me and saying, but now I can't get to non-finito recapture. One, yes you can, we're going to do it later, but it's like, well, I can't get to it early. And here's the thing. Yes, in theory, getting to recapture non-finito early is insanely strong, and it can be, but there's only 3 things it realistically is playing around this format. The big one is Droll. However, that only applies if you have not searched before making non-finito. We obviously have because we met Terminus, so that's not a big deal. The other 2 things it plays around is Nibiru, which I will admit our combo is going to play worse in a Nibiru than you would usually play. But my argument is that nobody's playing Nibiru right now. That card is maybe the worst it's ever been at the moment. That card sucks ass. I don't think you need to go super crazy playing around Nibiru. And even into Nibiru, our combo is still okay. Like, at the point they could Nibiru us, we can still do some things. We're not just, like, dead in the water. So I don't think it's that big a deal. And then Phydraulis Harmonia, which I think is the biggest one because that card is seeing play in multiple different decks that are good. However, my counter argument is that the way we're going to do this combo, there is one point they could Phydraulis us, which is on the Nervado effect to tag out. And if they do that, it's ass. They could, if they send Malong, there's nothing good to bounce, so that doesn't really matter. If they send Packbit, which is the only thing we're actually scared of, there's no monsters for them to put into our back row. So that's also bad. There's just nothing that they can really do here that we're actually going to care about, right? It's basically just a worst Ghost Ogre if they do it here, and like a way worse Ghost Ogre at that. So it's just not very good. They really... like it's just there's nothing that going recapture here actually realistically plays around in this combo. So I think it's fine. The actual downside is that you have to banish top 3 at the start of your combo, which could mess some things up. You have already searched the field spell, which is the important thing, but there are some one-ofs that we do get later in the combo that if you banish are a little annoying. It's not the end of the world, but it is annoying. So that is a downside. Fair. I don't think it's that big a deal. You're not super likely to banish the one-ofs anyway. And if you do, you can adjust, right? So we're going to go ahead and tag out the Nerva, or the Nervado for the Nerva. We're going to trigger Nervado to summon the Ginoldo from the deck. We're then going to link into Beyond the Pendulum. Beyond the Pendulum is going to add a monster, chain 1. Ginoldo is going to add chain 2. So this plays around Phydraulis because they have to chain it to a monster effect you control, and it's that means a monster on your field, effectively, right? And the Ginoldo is not. So the fact that was chain 2 means they can't Phydraulis us. Now, they could bell the Ginoldo here, and then you could be like, well, now you can't get 2 scales, and then you lose because you can't do anything since you're locked under Beyond the Pendulum. And that would be true if we didn't have the field spell, right? Because if they bell the Ginoldo here, we can just go Beyond, search a high scale, field spell, get a low scale, and then we're totally fine. We can just keep playing from there. So totally fine there. We're going to use the Ginoldo to add back Vidolium, and we're going to use Beyond to search the Ginoldo. We're then going to scale our 2 monsters, use the field spell, banish this card out of our hand to get the Gepredo from the deck, and then we're going to link our 2 monsters into Override. So now, assuming you have other cards in your hand, which like realistically you will, your opponent can't hand trap you from here, right? Once we do this pen summon, they can't do anything to our combo at all. So, because we'll have an Omni Negate for our turn up, which is great. We are going to get to now pend 3. We're going to go ahead and pend our Gepredo, Nervado, and Ginoldo. We're going to use Ginoldo to tag out. I don't love that you have to do this, but you do kind of need to get your Synchro into the grave, and there's not a super elegant way to do it that I could figure out. Is like the one thing I don't like about this combo is that you do have to tag out a second time, which opens you up to banishing one-ofs even more, but it is what it is. And again, if you open other cards, like you have other options too. We're going to go ahead and tag out. We're going to link our Gepredo and our Synchro for the Link 2. We're going to use our Gepredo to get the Power Patron Trap, and we're going to use the Link 2 to get our Past Lull. We're now going to link into Exceed the Pendulum. Exceed is going to add back Nervado. We're then going to tribute the Nervado in hand and the Past Lull in our hand to summon Non-Finito. Now we get to use Non-Finito to set the recapture, so we're insulated even more. And one of my favorite plays, we get to go Exceed, summon back the Nervado that we tributed for the Non-Finito. Now we're going to go ahead and use the Past Lull Grave effect, because we didn't use its on-field effect, to summon back the Genora, and this is how we're going to make our Varudross, and then we're going to use Override to pop our field spell to get an extra draw, and we're going to pass here. So this might not look that crazy, but it is actually quite a lot. So we got to draw off the Override. We have a Varudross negate, we have the Recapture negate, and on paper, that's kind of it. Now, obviously, we have the Power Patron Trap, which can bring back our Synchro, and then banish a card from our opponent's hand and field, right? But there is more to it than that. On our opponent's turn, once we use the trap card, we'll be able to trigger the Genoldo to draw 2, discard 1, and once it goes to extra, we'll be able to add a card back. But we also ended on Exceed the Pendulum, so instead of doing it then, we can wait, use Exceed the Pendulum, summon back a Pendulum monster, the one under our Varudross, since we don't, unfortunately, we don't have another one in rotation, but if you have any other one, you are good. You can then bring back the Nervado that we have under the Varudross, and then summon the Nervado off of the Exceed the Pendulum, trigger Genoldo then, draw 2, discard 1, add back. Then we can use Non-Finito to fuse away the Nervado and the Override Dragon into Vortex Dragon. And this is important. When we summon Vortex, it does have an on-summon effect that allows it to bounce an attack position monster back to our opponent's hand, which is actually pretty good. It basically means you get to end on your own version of Draco Tail Horn, which of course is a card they can play around, but it means they gotta put all their monsters in defense, which is good for us, like objectively, right? So either they're putting everything in defense, or we get to bounce a card back, so pretty damn good, right? And it's an Omni Negate, of course. You get 2 interruptions out of that. You also get to trigger Nervado to summon Finmel from deck, right? Since we are playing the one of Finmel. Now, you don't have to play the Finmel. It is just a way to add a bit of interruption to your end board. If you don't want to play the Finmel, you can instead just play just summon any patron from deck for more follow-up. That's still really good. So, still really, really strong. And we'll go ahead and see what this all looks like in practice. So we're going to go ahead and our opponent's going to Terminus. We're going to use Varudross to negate. We're going to detach the Nervado. We're going to summon back the Nervado, use Nervado, and then use Genoldo to draw 2, discard 1, add a card back. So we have a ton of follow-up going into the next turn. And our opponent's going to go ahead and keep trying to play. They're going to use the Nervado, summon the Genoldo. Again, they shouldn't be summoning an attack position here, but I just wanted to show off what this looked like in theory without making this super long. We're now going to go ahead and use Non-Finito to fuse our 2 monsters away for Vortex. Now we get to go chain 1 Nervado, chain 2 Vortex, bounce their card back, and use the Nervado to summon Finmel. Right? So this is really strong, right? This is a very, very strong setup. Post side, you also can put in the Pact Awakening trap, which you can set instead of the Recapture. That allows you to do a ton more than this as well. Also, keep in mind, this combo did not use our normal summon, and it didn't use Medius. So any way to Medius is unbelievable here. You get to have so much more extension, and more extension does do things in this build. Being able to, for example, use the Genoldo on your turn, something that we didn't get to do. You could use Genoldo on your turn, and then link into Exceed, add back that same copy of Genoldo to draw 2 more cards on the opponent's turn. You could also, if you have any Pendulum monster in your hand, you could also Genoldo on your turn and then do that. If you have really just extra cards in your hand, you could make an early Non-Finito and then still get to everything else, right? Which is really good. It means you don't have to use the Nervado from hand later, and then you could do something else with that play, right? There's a lot of really interesting things you could do from this, but I wanted to show off this combo because I'm gonna be real, I just didn't see anyone doing the combos right. What do you want me to say, right? I just didn't see anybody able to put up the board that I think you can put up with this new card. I think this card's very, very good. I think people are super underrating it. It's also a good card going second, which is something most of the end board pieces in Patron have not been in the extra deck. Something I've not liked about the Patron extra deck is that so many of the cards a lot of people are playing in it are basically terrible going second. Override is a good card when you go second. It's an Omni Negate when you into a board, which is great. It can pop dead cards in your board to draw things. If your opponent puts a guy in your scale somehow by sending a pack bit or whatever, you can pop it. That's awesome. This card rocks. I think people are super underrating this card. Anyway, I want to get a more in-depth video about, again, the new support we're getting with Magnificent Monsters and all that. I also would love to put out a video just on the decks that Override is actually meant for, because this card's unbelievable for those actual decks. Anyway, let me know if y'all want to see that. I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.